Every NBA era has its myths, stories of a single player who rose above the rest, who didn't just play the game, but defined it. You hear their names, you remember the moments, but what makes one season truly legendary? What separates greatness from immortality? Lately, I've been hearing a lot of people say, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander just had one of the greatest individual seasons ever. And don't get me wrong, the guy was incredible this year. But it got me thinking, what actually counts as the greatest individual season in NBA history? Not just stats, not just vibes. I'm talking awards, playoff excellence, total impact, the full package. So I pulled the receipts. I went through the most legendary seasons from the best to ever do it, broke them all down, and at the end, I'll make the call. Who, in my opinion, had the single greatest season in NBA history? And once you see the full picture, I don't think it'll be much of a debate. There are seasons where a player dominates the league. There are seasons where the league bends to accommodate a new reality. Stephen Curry's 2015-16 campaign wasn't just historically great, it forced the sport to evolve. Fresh off a title and still somehow underestimated, Curry walked into that season with one of the most complete and efficient offensive arsenals the game had ever seen. And over the next 82 games, he dismantled the league at a pace that bordered on absurdity.
And that's the greatest three-point shooter the game has ever seen. Knocking in another. Yo, he is so big time. And then he goes with the Baron Davis flesh out celebration. He is filthy.
Golden State finished the regular season at 73-9, the best record in NBA history. Curry was at the center of it all, winning his second consecutive MVP, this time by unanimous vote, the first player in league history to ever do so. He was the engine of the most efficient offense in the league and the stylistic heart of a basketball revolution. The numbers remain jarring even today. And it wasn't just what he did, it was how. Pull-up threes in transition from 35 feet, quick release daggers with defenders draped all over him. There were stretches where he was hitting contested shots from deep at a higher clip than most players shoot uncontested layups. Remember that game when he closed out OKC? Why am I even saying this? You remember.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry! With 0.6 of a second remaining.
He made those shots a routine. And perhaps most impressively, he did it all without hunting for stats. He didn't play in the fourth quarter in 18 different games because the Warriors had already buried their opponents. The individual brilliance was undeniable. The unanimous MVP vote wasn't just recognition, it was a statement. For a league filled with egos and differing philosophies, everyone agreed. Curry was on a whole different plane. But the ending of this season complicates things. The Warriors entered the playoffs with expectations as historic as the record. They battled through injuries, survived a 7-game war with the Thunder, but in the final act, up 3-1 against Cleveland, it all fell apart. Curry's knee and ankle were still recovering. Draymond Green was suspended for Game 5, and the Warriors lost in 7, no finals MVP, no storybook ending. And yet, the season itself remains untouchable. Curry's performance forced a shift in how basketball is played and how it's defended. He altered floor spacing, shot selection, roster construction, even youth coaching philosophy. It was more than just great numbers. It was the launch point for a stylistic movement. So no, he didn't finish the season with a ring. But what he did from October to May, and the way he did it, reshaped basketball forever. It was brilliance at scale. One of the greatest offensive seasons the game has ever seen. Led by a player who redefined what greatness could look like from 30 feet away. In the end, Curry's resume from the year looked almost unreal. He became the first unanimous MVP in NBA history. He was named to the All-NBA first team, started in the All-Star game, and led the league in scoring and steals while also topping nearly every advanced metric. Oh yeah, let me not forget his averages. 30 points, 7 assists, 5.5 rebounds, and 2 steals per game while shooting at an extraordinary 50% from the field, 45% from 3, and 91% from the free throw line. He also managed to shatter his own single season 3-point record, 402 of them. I'm not even a Curry fan, and these stats are unbelievable. But for all the ways Curry changed what a point guard could be, he wasn't the first one to change what a point guard was. Before Curry was breaking defenses with range, there was another maestro, one who didn't stretch the floor, but bent it through vision, pace, and feel. The man who redefined the position long before the position even had a definition. There's a certain rhythm great players impose on the game. With Curry, it was tempo through distance. With Magic, it was tempo through control. He didn't sprint, he glided. He didn't overpower, he orchestrated. And in 1986-87, Magic reached the full height of his powers. and the league never caught up.
Worthy, front court pass to Magic, bounce on it to Scott, score! Magic, a scintillating bounce pass. I love those passes.
This wasn't just another year in Showtime's highlight reel. It was the year Magic took the keys and never gave them back. Kareem was nearing 40. Worthy was rising, but Magic was the one pulling the strings. And for the first time in his career, the league officially recognized it, crowning him the most valuable player. The Lakers won 65 games, blitzed through the West, and met the Celtics in the finals for the third time in 4 years. The stakes couldn't have been clearer. Magic versus Bird, again, this time with everything on the line. Magic didn't blink. In fact, he took over. Game 4 was the turning point. Tied series, final seconds, hostile Boston crowd. Magic drove into the lane.
5 seconds to go. Magic with a hook shot, scores with 2.
And buried the Celtics. It's a shot that still echoes. The Lakers never looked back. He averaged over 26 points, 13 assists, and 8 rebounds in that final series. It was the command that defined him. No wasted movement, no forced possessions, just relentless pace, composure, and execution. He controlled time, he controlled space, and he did it all with a smile. This wasn't just Magic's peak. It was the blueprint for how a point guard could run a championship offense. At 6'9", he redefined the position, not through power or volume, but through total command. And in this season, the league finally caught up to what everyone has been witnessing for years. His performance wasn't rewarded because it was new. It was rewarded because there was no longer a way to deny it. This was the year that Magic left no doubt. In the end, his body of work told the full story. Magic collected his first ever Most Valuable Player award, cementing his status as the league's best. He added a Finals MVP to his resume, guiding the Lakers to their 4th championship of that decade. He was named to the All-NBA first team, earned another All-Star selection, and orchestrated the league's most dangerous offense to a 65-17 record. Over the course of the year, he averaged 24 points, 12 assists, 6.5 rebounds, and almost 2 steals per game, all while shooting 52% from the field. This was the year of Magic. But dynasties don't rest on the shoulders of just one era. In Los Angeles, the torch is never passed quietly. Instead, it's ripped away by force. A decade after Magic orchestrated the game like a symphony, a different kind of conductor took the stage. One who didn't glide down the court, but rattled it with every step. Magic moved the ball like it was on a string. This one shattered backboards and dared you to stand in the way. And by the year 2000, their identity was no longer built on flair. It was built on fear. Quick side note, y'all. If you guys are enjoying the video, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. It would really help us reach our goal of 10,000 subs. Make sure you guys go subscribe to our brand new podcast channel, Jay-Z Courtside. That, as well as my Discord server, is linked down below. Back to the video. If Magic's reign was built on vision, Shaquille O'Neal's was built on force. By the time the new millennium arrived, the Lakers were no longer Showtime's team. They were Shaq's team, and that meant the game would be played on his terms. At 7'1" and over 300 pounds, Shaq had always been the league's largest problem. But in 1999-2000, he arrived in the best shape of his career, free of distractions, and locked in on one goal. The whispers that he didn't work hard enough, didn't take the game seriously enough, followed him for years. That season, he silenced them. From opening night to the season's final buzzer, Shaq was a mismatch that simply couldn't be solved. Send a single defender, and it was 2 points. Send a double, and he split it or powered through. Follow him, and he'd still finish the play. He didn't just score over opponents. He wore them down, possession after possession, until resistance became hopeless. The Lakers stormed to a 67-15 record under new head coach Phil Jackson, with a 21-year-old Kobe Bryant quickly emerging as the perfect counterpunch to Shaq's reign. But make no mistake, everything started with the big man in the paint. And in the postseason, he elevated from dominant to historic.
Bryant to Shaq!
The deeper the Lakers went, the more unstoppable he became. And by the time they reached the finals, Indiana had no answers left. Shaq delivered 3 separate 40-point performances in the 6-game series, overwhelming Rick Smits, Dale Davis, and anyone else the Pacers dared to throw at him. Every possession in the paint ended the same way, at the rim, through contact, and with the game tilting further in LA's favor. This wasn't just dominance, it was inevitable. It was power basketball at its absolute peak. Shaq wasn't just the most unstoppable player in the league. He was the league's gravitational center. Every defensive rotation, every help side decision, every late game possession began with one question: how do we deal with this guy? And in 2000, there was no answer. In the end, the season's accolades matched the superiority everyone had witnessed. Shaq won the NBA's Most Valuable Player award, falling just 1 vote shy of becoming the first unanimous MVP in league history. He was named Finals MVP after leading the Lakers to their first championship since 1988, was also selected to the All-NBA first team, earned all-defensive second-team honors, and started in the All-Star game, where he also claimed All-Star MVP. Over the course of the season, Shaq averaged 30 points, 14 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 blocks per game, all while shooting 57.5% from the field. Well, hold on. Listen to his finals numbers. 38 points and 17 rebounds per game. And people say that he's not the most dominant player ever. This wasn't just the best year of Shaquille O'Neal's career. It was the year raw size, unmatched skill, and complete focus aligned to create a version of Shaq the league had feared but never truly seen before. The throne in Los Angeles belonged entirely to him.
Oh, they got one.
Shaq's reign was built on authority so complete it left opponents beaten before the game was over. But no dynasty lasts forever. By the late 2000s, the sport belonged to LeBron James. The only debate was which version of him was the greatest we'd ever seen. Was it 2018 LeBron, the superhuman who dragged a flawed Cavaliers roster through the East and delivered one of the greatest playoff runs in history? Or was it the 2012-13 LeBron, the fully realized masterpiece of skill, athleticism, and control, leading the Heat through one of the most complete seasons the game has ever seen? This wasn't an easy choice. 2018 LeBron gave us some of the most cinematic moments of his career, but 2013 LeBron gave us perfection in all phases: elite scoring, playmaking, defense, efficiency, leadership, and a championship. If 2018 was a heroic movie, 2013 was a flawless season from the best player alive. By the summer of 2012, the questions that had dogged LeBron James for nearly a decade were gone. The championship monkey was off of his back. He was no longer chasing validation. He was chasing history. And in 2012-13, he didn't just answer the call. He redefined the standard for an all-around player. This wasn't just LeBron at his peak physically. It was the complete merging of athletic power, refined skill, and basketball intellect. There were no holes in his game anymore.
Three. Look at Lillard fly in. LeBron with another spectacular block.
The Miami Heat were ruthless that season, rattling off win streaks that made the rest of the league feel like they were just playing for second place. Operating with the precision of a surgeon and the force of a freight train. Whether it was bullying smaller defenders in the post, slicing through traps with pinpoint passing, or hitting the three at a career best rate, he had every counter ready.
Wade steals it, hands it off Chalmers to call the alley-oop, and LeBron slams it right in the grill.
The defining stretch came during Miami's 27-game winning streak, the second longest in NBA history. Over that run, LeBron delivered one of the most absurd feats of efficiency the league has ever seen. A 6-game span averaging over 30 points while shooting better than 60% from the floor in every single game. He wasn't just the league's best player, he was untouchable. And when the playoffs came, he simply shifted into a higher gear. He dismantled the East, guiding Miami back to the finals for a third straight year. Waiting for them was the battle-tested San Antonio Spurs, a team that had won 4 championships, a coach in Greg Popovich who thrived on exposing weaknesses, and a young Kawhi Leonard tasked with the impossible assignment. For much of the series, the Spurs forced LeBron to think, pushing him into jumpers, clogging driving lanes. But when Miami needed him most, he answered. In Game 6, he put together a 32-point, 10-rebound performance that kept the Heat alive just long enough for Ray Allen to hit the shot heard around the world. And in Game 7, LeBron closed the series with 37 points and 12 rebounds, sealing his second straight championship and second straight Finals MVP. This wasn't just about numbers. It was control. It was inevitability. In 2013, LeBron didn't just win. He dictated the terms of the entire league. LeBron claimed his 4th MVP award, earning 120 of 121 first place votes. He was named Finals MVP, selected to the All-NBA first team and the All-Defensive first team, proving that he was the most complete player alive on both ends of the floor. He also earned his 9th All-Star selection, leading Miami to a 66-16 record, the best in franchise history. Over the course of the season, he averaged 27 points, 8 rebounds, 7.5 assists, all while shooting a career-high 56.5% from the field and 41% from 3. In 2013, LeBron James wasn't just the best player in the game, he was the game's final word. It's the kind of season that makes you wonder if we had just witnessed the pinnacle of basketball excellence. But when you talk about the pinnacle, the conversation always circles back to one name in particular. And when you talk about the GOAT, it isn't just a title, it's an expectation, one that only one player has ever lived up to over and over again. 18 months away from the game could have been the most perfect excuse for a decline. But Michael Jordan doesn't operate on normal timelines. After returning late in the 1994-95 season and falling short in the playoffs, the whispers began. Maybe the league had caught up. Maybe the magic was gone. In 1995-96, he answered with a season that put all of those whispers in a coffin. This was Jordan at maximum focus, combining his unmatched competitive fire with a sharper, deadlier mid-range game and the same suffocating defense that had tormented the league for a decade. The Chicago Bulls became a machine, ripping through opponents on their way to an NBA record 72-10 regular season. Every night, Jordan set the tone. He punished defenders in the post, controlled games from the mid-range, and made closing time feel inevitable. No lead was safe. No matchup favored the other team. The playoffs only amplified that aura. Chicago cruised through the East, setting up a finals clash with Gary Payton and the Seattle Supersonics. Payton, the league's defensive player of the year, promised to make Jordan work for every point. But it didn't matter. Jordan controlled that series from the jump, taking the first 3 games before Seattle clawed back 2. In Game 6, with the Bulls on the brink of history, Jordan finished the job, clinching his 4th championship.
The Chicago Bulls have won the 95-96 NBA championship.
Jordan had won his 4th most valuable player award, added a 4th NBA Finals MVP, and was named to both the All-NBA first team and the All-Defensive first team. He notched his 10th All-Star selection, captured the All-Star Game MVP, and once again led the league in scoring, his 8th time doing so. The Bulls' 72 wins set a new gold standard for the regular season excellence. Over the course of that year, Jordan averaged over 30 points, 6.5 rebounds, and 4.5 assists per game, all while shooting 50% from the field and 43% from 3. In the playoffs, he maintained that scoring edge while leading Chicago to a 15-3 postseason record.
I'm sorry I was out for 18 months, but I'm happy I'm back to bring a championship back to Chicago.
Jordan's 1996 season felt like a story. The greatest player of all time returning to the top of the mountain like he'd never left. But while Jordan was reclaiming his throne, another legend had already carved out a season unlike anything before or since. This one didn't wear number 23. He wore number 34. He didn't just score, he smothered. He didn't just win, he erased your best option entirely. And in 1993-94, Hakeem Olajuwon didn't just sit on the throne, he built it himself. When Michael Jordan shocked the world by stepping away from basketball in 1993, the NBA became an open playing field. But while most saw opportunity, one man saw responsibility. For Hakeem Olajuwon, this wasn't just a chance to win. It was a chance to prove that a center could dominate both ends of the court in a way that no guard ever could. That season, Hakeem was everywhere. Offensively, his footwork was poetry, spinning, pivoting, and faking defenders into submission with a now immortal Dream Shake.
Olajuwon with a spectacular move.
On defense, he was an unmovable wall at the rim, snuffing out shots and cutting off passing lanes before opponents even knew that they were there. He didn't just protect the paint, he owned it. The Rockets rode that all-around brilliance to 58 wins, the best mark in franchise history at the time. But it was the postseason where Hakeem's legend crystallized. In the West, he dismantled David Robinson, Karl Malone, and Charles Barkley in succession. 3 Hall of Famers, 3 entirely different styles of attack, all reduced to the same fate. And then came the 1994 finals. Across from him stood Patrick Ewing, the anchor of the New York Knicks, in a bruising 7-game series that felt like a heavyweight title fight. Every possession was a battle. Every rebound was a war. But when it mattered most, Hakeem was the difference, hitting clutch jumpers, blocking shots, and willing the Rockets to the franchise's first championship.
And the Houston Rockets, led by Hakeem Olajuwon, are the world champions of 1994.
No one had ever seen a season like that. Not Jordan, not Kareem, not Russell. Because in 1994, Hakeem Olajuwon didn't just dominate the game, he mastered it in every phase.
Took him 10 years, but Hakeem finally has won the big one.
The accolades were historic. Hakeem became the first and only player in NBA history to win the MVP, the Defensive Player of the Year, and the Finals MVP all in the same season. He was also named to the All-NBA First Team and the All-Defensive First Team, started in the All-Star game, and led the Rockets to the championship. Over the course of the season, he averaged over 27 points, 12 rebounds, 3.5 assists, and basically 4 blocks per game, all while shooting 53% from the field. He even put up those same numbers in the finals, sealing his place among the most complete players the game has ever seen. 1994 wasn't just the year of the dream. It was the year the dream became reality and redefined what greatness could actually look like. Hakeem's season was proof that a big man could own every inch of the court, from the post to the perimeter, from opening tip to the final buzzer. But when you talk about the legendary big men, you eventually hit a name that doesn't just live in basketball history, it lives in folklore. His stats read like myths, and his life off the court is just as oversized. The man famously claimed to have been with over 1,000 women, a number as crazy as some of his box scores. There's also the story of him casually bench pressing 500 pounds just to see if he could. This man right here didn't just play basketball. He seemed to exist on a different physical plane altogether. And in 1967, at the peak of his powers, he decided to show the world that his game could be as unstoppable and as versatile as his legend. By 1967, Wilt Chamberlain's reputation was already cemented cemented as the NBA's ultimate physical marvel. He had scored 100 points in a game, supposedly, led the game in rebounding year after year, and posted statistical feats that still sound made up. But for all the personal records, critics questioned whether Wilt could lead a team to a championship without chasing every point and rebound for himself. So that year, he answered them. Playing for the Philadelphia 76ers, Wilt traded some of his scoring for efficiency and playmaking. He didn't need to drop 50 a night anymore. Yeah, that wasn't a joke. Instead, he focused on blending his force with patience, dominating the paint, but also trusting his teammates in a way that he never had before. The result? The Sixers tore through the league, finishing with a 68-13 record, the best in NBA history at that time. The postseason only strengthened his transformation story. In the Eastern Division Finals, they finally dethroned the Boston Celtics, ending an 8-year championship stranglehold. And when the finals came against his former team, the San Francisco Warriors, Wilt was the center of gravity in every game. He rebounded everything in sight, protected the rim, and kept the offense flowing. There's no box score for the intimidation he brought, but it was real. Guards drove into the lane and thought twice. Forwards settled for jumpers they didn't want to take. Wilt didn't just stand in the paint. He cast a shadow over it. By the end of the series, Philadelphia was champion, and the old narrative about Wilt had been buried alongside the Celtics dynasty. In the end, his resume for the season was staggering. Wilt claimed the NBA's most valuable player, earned All-NBA first-team selection, and of course, an NBA championship. But he also managed to average 24 points, 24 rebounds, and 8 assists per game, all while shooting an absurd 68% from the field, a mark that still looks untouchable. And in the playoffs, he took his rebounding to an even higher gear, averaging 28.5 boards per game. Unfortunately for Wilt, the Finals MVP award wasn't created yet. Otherwise, he would have claimed that too. The man who once seemed like a stat-chasing giant had proven he could be something even greater, the centerpiece of a champion. This season wasn't just Wilt Chamberlain at his most overpowering, it was Wilt Chamberlain at his most complete. Wilt's 1967 season proved that even the biggest figure could reshape himself for the sake of winning. It was the year he learned that being the strongest man in the building didn't mean carrying the entire weight alone. But greatness wears different faces. Sometimes it isn't raw size that bends the game to your will. It's precision, patience, and the ability to strike at exactly the right moment. Larry Bird didn't tower over defenders like Wilt. Bird's edge came from seeing the floor before anyone else, from making the impossible pass seem obvious, from turning the smallest sliver of space into a dagger. And in 1985-86, he took that vision to its highest point. By 1986, Larry Bird was already a two-time defending MVP. He had proven himself as the heart of the Boston Celtics, the league's most complete forward, and the fiercest competitor on the floor. But this year, he didn't just sustain that level, he elevated it to a place few have ever reached. This was Bird at his most ruthless. He didn't beat you with speed or a vertical leap. He beat you by being 3 moves ahead. Every pass he threw seemed to arrive a split second before defenders even realized where the ball was going. Every shot, the step backs, the mid-range fades, the quick trigger threes felt undeniable. And when the moment called for it, he would cut straight to the heart with a quiet swagger that could be just as lethal as a dunk. The Celtics that year were loaded. Kevin McHale at his peak, Robert Parrish as reliable as ever, Dennis Johnson locking down guards, and of course Bill Walton rejuvenating the bench. But Bird was the conductor. He didn't just put up numbers. He led a team that many still call the greatest in NBA history. Boston finished with a 67-15 record, nearly unbeatable at the old Boston Garden, where they went 40-1. In the playoffs, Bird raised his game once again. The Celtics stormed through the East, dismantling teams with a mix of precision offense and suffocating defense.
Back to Larry Bird. Whoa, look at that. How's that?
The finals brought the Houston Rockets, a young, talented squad built around the twin towers of Hakeem Olajuwon and Ralph Sampson. Size was their weapon, but Bird turned it against them. His outside shooting and perfect passing pulled Houston's defense apart piece by piece, opening lanes for McHale, Parrish, and cutters all night. Boston had won the championship in 6 games. It was the culmination of his reign at the top, a season where his mind and skill were perfectly in sync, and every choice he made feel like the right one. In the end, Bird's resume from that season tells the full story. He was the league's MVP for the 3rd straight year, Finals MVP, NBA champion. He was named to the All-NBA first team. He averaged 26 points, 10 rebounds, and 7 assists per game, all while shooting 50% from the field and 43% from 3. Oh yeah, and let's not forget 89.6% from the line. He was flirting with a 50-40-90 split season while leading one of the greatest teams ever assembled. This wasn't just Larry Bird's peak. It was a showcase in how intellect, skill, and competitive fire can control every inch of a basketball court. Bird's brilliance was the centerpiece of a dynasty. But what happens when all that weight falls on one player's shoulders? For Boston, greatness was shared. For Charles Barkley in 1993, greatness was carried, and it nearly toppled the GOAT himself. When Charles Barkley arrived in Phoenix in the summer of 1992, the Suns weren't searching for a star. They were searching for a savior. The team had been good, competitive in the West, but they hadn't been great. Barkley was supposed to change that, and in 1 year, he did. From the moment he stepped onto the court in a Suns jersey, Barkley played like a man determined to prove Philadelphia made a mistake by trading him. He gave Phoenix a swagger they hadn't seen in years, a relentless presence who could crash the boards, bulldoze his way to the rim, and still thread a pass that made you forget he was built like a tank. The regular season was a showcase of versatility and willpower. Barkley wasn't content to just score. He rebounded, facilitated, and defended with the urgency of someone who knew exactly what was at stake. His leadership powered the Suns to an NBA's best 62-20 record, earning him the MVP award, the only of his career. In the playoffs, he elevated even further. His defining moment came in the Western Conference Finals against the Seattle Supersonics. In Game 7, with a trip to the finals on the line, Barkley delivered one of the greatest performances in postseason history. He had 44 points and 24 rebounds, sending Phoenix to their first finals since 1976. Unfortunately, waiting for him was Michael Jordan at the peak of his powers. Barkley didn't back down. He averaged over 27 points, 13 rebounds, and 5 assists per game in that series, dragging the Suns to 6 fiercely competitive games. Game after game, he traded blows with Jordan, refusing to let Phoenix go quietly. But MJ was MJ, and the Bulls clinched their 3rd straight championship. It was heartbreak, but it was also validation. Barkley had taken a franchise on his back and brought it to the brink against the greatest player of all time. For a single season, no one in the NBA played with more energy, grit, and force of will.
Barkley dish off to Sabanos, back to Barkley, and a nice give and go. Barkley goes in for the chain.
Barkley's resume was as strong as it gets without a championship. He was the MVP, an All-NBA first-team selection, an All-Star, and the leader of the team with the league's best record. Over the season, he averaged 25.5 points, over 12 rebounds, and 5 assists per game, while also shooting 52% from the field. This was Charles Barkley at his absolute best. The season he proved one player really could change everything. Barkley's run was fueled by raw will and the burden of carrying an entire franchise. But not every all-time season is defined by carrying the heaviest load. Some seasons are about balance, being the anchor, the stabilizer, and the quiet constant in the middle of chaos. That is where Tim Duncan's 2002-2003 season lives, the quiet cornerstone of a championship machine. By 2003, Tim Duncan was already an MVP, a champion, and the unquestioned leader of the San Antonio Spurs. But this season felt different. David Robinson was on his farewell tour. The supporting cast was young and still finding its rhythm. If the Spurs were going to win, Duncan would have to hold everything together himself. He did, without ever raising his voice. Night after night, Duncan was the Spurs' stability. Offensively, he was methodical, picking apart defenders in the post, facing up with soft mid-range jumpers, and reading double teams like a point guard. Defensively, he was the anchor, patrolling the paint, erasing mistakes, and directing traffic so seamlessly that San Antonio always looked in control. The Spurs finished with 60 wins, good enough for the top seed in the West. In the playoffs, Duncan elevated his game again. He dismantled Phoenix in the first round, outplayed Shaq in the conference semis, and let it come back against the Dallas Mavericks in the conference finals. Then came the finals against the New Jersey Nets, a series Duncan dominated so thoroughly that he nearly recorded a quadruple double in the decisive Game 6, finishing with 21 points, 20 rebounds, 10 assists, and 8 blocks. It was the perfect send-off for Robinson and the perfect encapsulation of Duncan's greatness: unselfish, unshakable, and completely in control. Duncan claimed his 2nd most valuable player award, his 2nd NBA Finals MVP, and another championship. He was named to the All-NBA first team, as well as the defensive first team, averaging 23.5 points, 13 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 blocks per game while shooting 51%. Now I know it wasn't the loudest season on this list, but it was one of the most complete. Proof that sometimes the greatest impact comes not from carrying everything yourself, but from holding it all together. After breaking down all 10 of those seasons, weighing every accolade, every statistical feat, and the context behind each run, I had to face the inevitable question: which one truly stands above the rest? From Curry's shooting revolution in 2016 to Magic's orchestration in 1987. From Shaq's unmatched physical presence in 2000 to LeBron's all-around mastery in 2013. From Jordan's record-setting dominance in 96 to Bird's cerebral command in 86. From Barkley's one-man franchise push in 93 to Duncan's quiet dynasty building in 2003. From Wilt's refined team-first dominance in 1967 to Hakeem's two-way brilliance in 1994. Each of these could stake a claim, but only one season checks every single box in the most complete way possible. That's why I choose the man they call the Dream, Hakeem Olajuwon. Hakeem's 1993-94 season remains the only time in NBA history a player has captured MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, Finals MVP, and a championship all in the same year. He did it without the benefit of another all-star by his side. Instead, he shouldered the responsibility of leading a franchise from start to finish. In the playoffs, he ran through a gauntlet of Hall of Fame big men, dismantling each of them with a blend of skill, patience, and relentless competitiveness. In the finals, he outclassed Patrick Ewing across 7 physical, low-scoring battles, sealing the Rockets' first ever title. What makes this season singular is how complete it was. Olajuwon wasn't merely the best scorer or the best defender. He was both, on the same stage, in the same year, under the highest pressure possible. He dominated games without ever forcing them, balanced scoring with playmaking, and turned defense into an art form. Every possible individual and team accolade ended up in his hand, not through statistical padding, but through the total mastery of every moment that mattered. The other 9 seasons here are towering achievements in their own right, but Hakeem's 94 campaign is the one that feels untouchable. It is the purest expression of a player doing everything and winning everything. Incoming, but Joe, he only did all of that because Michael Jordan went to play baseball that year. I don't care. That shouldn't discredit how good Hakeem truly was this season. If you ask me who had the best season of all time, I'd pick Rodney Stuckey's 2010 season with the Pistons. When I started writing this script, it was just a question, a reaction to the hype. Shea might have had one of the best seasons ever. And maybe he did, but I needed to know. I had to see for myself where that bar really was. Now that I've seen it, I know. Because once you walk through the fire of all of these seasons, the legends, the runs, the weight of history, one name doesn't just stand at the end. It echoes. Hakeem the Dream. That's the standard. That's the season. And for me, that's the answer. If you enjoyed, please drop a like and subscribe. It helps way more than you think. And if you disagree and you think someone else had the greatest season ever, tell me who and why in the comment section down below. Make sure you guys go subscribe to our brand new podcast channel, Jay-Z Courtside. Once the NBA season tips off, we're dropping daily podcasts covering everything around the league. There's some videos on the screen right now that I think you'll love. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.